This is Smarter San Diego TV.
Our next guests are here to discuss the importance of online marketing for home sellers in San Diego. Give a warm welcome to real estate expert Katie King and her guests, the co-founders of Continuum Design and Marketing, Leif and Marta Andreas.
All right, welcome to the show, y'all. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all coming. Katie King.
Yeah.
Back in the house.
Back in the house, representing.
Today, talking about, now this is something that I think a lot of home sellers don't even realize is going on, but online marketing has become a big part in selling homes these days. Mm-hmm. So you wanted to bring Leif and Marta on today. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so these are our marketing team. They're a brother and sister team, and they are awesome. They've been with us from the very beginning. I think that, yeah, you have to get exposure by letting people know who you are, you know, verbally and going out and knocking on doors and just letting people know. But I think a big, huge, important piece is online. And they have rocked it from the beginning, and we're really happy. And so when you find something that's really good, you want to share it. And so that's why I wanted to bring Leif and Marta. They're with Continuum Design and Marketing. And so they're our crew. They are what make everything happen online for us. So
I'm curious, so when you say online marketing,
yeah.
Online encompasses a lot of things nowadays. What does that mean when you're explaining to someone you need to be online marketing these days?
Wow.
Fair question. You want to take?
I think you're absolutely right in that it does mean a whole lot of things. Mm-hmm. Particularly for realtors, I think the big things that we're talking about when we're talking about online marketing are email marketing, social media marketing, marketing through paid channels such as Google AdWords, Facebook ads. And then, you know, depending on the realtor, there are other strategies that they use like SEO, blogging, and really the list goes on and on.
SEO.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go there for a second.
Search engine optimization.
Yeah, because it seems to me...
Yeah, right?
That's most people. Eyes roll when you hear that
Well, it
term.
seems to me
exactly.
like SEO is one of those things that is so complex,
Yeah.
so dynamic, so ever-changing with Google. There's so many paid ads now that go above the first organic search. There's Google Places now. I mean, is SEO for small business people?
That is a really good question. I think the answer is not for all of them, no. I think SEO essentially, I think, can be stated really simply in that Google has to make money, and how they make money is by providing people the most relevant search results. So you can imagine with that kind of as your metric, you're like, well, I just need to make the most accurate content for people's searches. But it costs a whole lot of money and time to do that. So if that is your angle, and if that's where your demographic lies, and that is your strategy for marketing, then yes, absolutely. But maybe not for everyone, no.
Okay. So what you're saying is that to be high up in the natural search may cost you a lot more than to just throw your ad
absolutely
up there and right away get some results from it.
And that might be worthwhile for some. If you're looking at a long-term marketing strategy, long-term always means that focusing on SEO is going to matter. It just completely depends on who you are. And I think that's why the blanket term of online marketing is so vague, is that it includes so many different things, and what those mean to you completely depend on what industry you're in and who your demographic is.
Okay, definitely. But there's also, that was social media.
Yeah.
You can run advertisements on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I believe LinkedIn.
Yes,
yeah,
right?
They have now recently done that.
So almost like any channel of social media. Tumblr, some people use Tumblr, run ads there.
People use Tumblr?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's a very specific niche. Again, it depends. You wouldn't hear of it because you're speaking with most industries that wouldn't use Tumblr. If you're looking at more artistic industries, things focused on literature, Tumblr is an awesome avenue for that and known for that.
Huh.
Yeah, who would have
thought?
And
even for realtors who are pursuing a younger demographic, Tumblr is really heavy in less than 30-year-olds. So if you're particularly targeting millennials, there's quite an open space there for a realtor, where there's not a whole lot of other realtors advertising there, and it does have that demographic.
Which is why we market for TiltKing on Tumblr.
Yeah.
You do? Wow.
Yep, we do.
Snapchat is like the newest social media.
Yeah.
There's no way to advertise on Snapchat yet, I don't think.
Not in a paid sense.
Not in a paid sense, but there probably will be.
Yeah, absolutely.
At some point.
Absolutely.
And so is that sort of the way that these things go with, you know, a new social media comes out, it's free and it's nice and it's clean for a long time. That's what they did with Facebook. I mean, it was just This is like the slowest
that's
rug
true.
pull of all time with Facebook. I mean, they just
Exactly.
been pulling the rug, pulling it. All of a sudden, you're like, where'd it go?
Yeah.
Great analogy.
Well,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think
Honestly.
that's with social media. Always, in the end, the user is the product. I think that's something important to remember. They have to make money, and so that's how they do it. They monetize your time on the platform by seeing ads. So
Yeah, and that's okay. I'm not saying
Oh,
there's
definitely
anything
not.
wrong with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I'm just saying the chipping away.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm bitter about the Facebook thing.
Yeah,
I really
it
am.
does feel like
I
a
mean,
bait and switch.
Just the freaking
Right.
pounding. I mean, I feel like I'm down there and Facebook's right here the
Yeah.
whole time, just giving me the business.
They get to. They
Yeah.
get to. They're never in
Yeah.
trouble for doing it.
Well,
And I
By the
think
way, though, still a very effective place to advertise.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think understanding what they are and why they're doing it gives you ability to kind of get out from underneath the fist and use it effectively for whatever
Yeah.
you're looking for.
Absolutely.
You just got to look it straight in the face and know what it is, which is a ad generating machine.
Tell me about it. I've been filling their bank account up with checks on a
Yeah.
regular basis.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know
Everyone is
about
at
it.
this point.
It is a you would say a necessary evil, but it's not evil. It
No,
really
it's
isn't.
not.
It's actually really effective. It's one of those things that highly targeted aspects. So for like
Yeah.
for people who are like selling homes,
Yeah.
you know, these days and like advertise, like you have a home for sale. You know, if you get a $1 million listing or something that's not going to fly off the shelves, you know, no matter what.
Exactly.
Now you can target people who have the right type of demographics who might actually
Absolutely.
buy the home, right? I mean, so like how specifically, because when we say online marketing, I think a lot of people think old school SEO style, like, oh, I just need to
No.
put up a website, a business card, people will run into it, like an online billboard. But that's not how it is. You're actually trying to get the message in front of specific people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and not only get the message in front of specific people, but know what those types of people are doing online, what their behaviors are, what types of visual assets are appealing to them, what kind of text, the form of writing is appealing to them. That's going to be different for a millennial demographic versus probably an older retired demographic that you'd be targeting for a luxury house.
So you can target these things so specifically now that it's gotten to a point where you can, you know, demographics, geographics. It seems like to me with that, almost every business has a place in, specifically I would say Facebook marketing, but really in online marketing now as we're defining it, is not just being a website, but being a presence online. And not just a presence online now, but actually very laser targeted information and marketing messages
Absolutely.
that can be targeted to the demographic you're specifically going after.
Well, I think really what we're talking about when we're talking about that kind of targeting and messaging is something that was pioneered with big, you know, global brands like Nike and, you know, Adidas and whatever, where they had a really specific message and a brand that they're relaying. And now that is so into the conscious of people that that is how a brand should behave, that really all companies need to behave in that way. They need to be pinpointed and have a message and a narrative that they're sharing versus just kind of blindly advertising.
Adidas sounds so much better than Adidas.
I
doesn't
know,
it?
that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
I think I said it wrong.
They need. No, I think they need to
love it.
rebrand it.
Yeah.
Adidas. I
Yeah.
think they need to start running ads.
Kind of sounds like Audios though, which isn't maybe the best bet for them.
It could be like their
Adios.
luxury version.
Yeah, the luxury one.
Yeah. All right.
You're gonna make a ton of money doing that.
Yeah, wow.
Adidas.
Yeah.
They
Give
go
us-
great with your outfit.
Yeah, they would. Yeah.
I got every color in the rainbow here, pretty
Yeah.
much. save
Except for
purple.
gold.
Yeah.
No.
Gold's not in the rainbow.
Well,
Well, yellow
It's at
we
the
got
end of the
yellow in there
rainbow,
somewhere.
the gold coins.
That's true.
I'm
There we
thinking,
go.
Yeah, there we go.
You're our gold for today.
Yeah,
Aw.
All right,
right.
there it is. Here's the prize.
That's what he said.
He did just a minute ago.
He did.
Just said it.
Yeah.
Do's and don'ts. Is there anything you could share with us for people who are out there maybe getting started, or maybe they're already doing it and they're like pouring money into a budget and it's going nowhere for them?
Yeah.
Is there like maybe a big tip you could share with us?
Yeah.
Do you want to take this one? I think you
yeah.
hit on the biggest don't, which is throw
Exactly.
money at a problem and expect it to fix it.
Yeah.
Because marketing is so specific to who you're marketing to, throwing money at an issue likely won't do much good for you and cause you a lot of frustration in the end. Make sure whoever you're working with to do marketing is very strategically looking at who you're marketing to and why you're marketing to them and how to talk to them. Money has never fixed a problem that needs more research.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. In this day and age, there's no excuse for not having done the market research. There's so much data available through really accessible means and oftentimes free means, looking at Google Trends and local trends. It's just kind of like, if you're not doing the research, you're really just kind of throwing money away.
Yeah. So I would throw in one more thing too that I've learned, which is not to over split test. You know, it's easy to see that I've got 12 different things going here, but you need to know when something works, why. So, you know, that's why it's called A/B testing. You know, you just change one thing at a time.
Exactly.
And that's how you're going to ultimately get there. If you throw, you know, 20 different things out there, you're not going to really know why one of them worked.
Absolutely.
But you're going to think you do.
Yeah.
So now you may have wrong information, you may
Yeah.
use that to pour your budget into, and then you may end up wasting a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, we recommend only doing A/B testing, no more than two things comparing to one another. Otherwise, you're not, again, what you said, you're not going to know what worked, and even if it will continue working.
So. All right, great stuff. Katie, thanks so much for bringing them on today.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
Great idea. Quick ticket to the gun show.
Oh,
look out!
I was going to throw out a joke, but I forgot the joke. It's
beach
the
ball.
joke.
No.
The joke is, I had to go to the vets today.
Oh, yeah.
And then you say, why?
Oh, really? Why'd you have to go to the vet today?
Because these puppies are sick.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else. Commercial free.
The Mortgage Geek is back and here to give us all the goods on our low mortgage rates. Please welcome the Vice President of Cornerstone Mortgage Group, Sean Cahan.
There he is, Mortgage Geek, back in the house.
All right.
What's up, brother?
It's been a while.
It's been a minute. Glad we get the chance to wrap. I always like to pick your brain, see what's going on. I know we've talked in the past, the recent past, about how you have unloaded some of your own personal real estate holdings here.
Absolutely.
You felt the market might be at maybe a cyclical peak. But the drum that everyone keeps beating is that, but interest rates are so low, but interest rates are so low. But with interest rates this low, that's how all the conversations start. So I think it's important to have that conversation every once in a while and go, wait a minute, are interest rates really still low? And why are they low? And what would cause them not to be anymore? Is there any kind of warning signs that we could give out to people? So first of all, rates are still very low. When we say low, we mean like sub 4%.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
Conventional, FHA, VA.
It's like the 10-year like kind of goes up and down, and really nothing's really attached to it again. You know, it's very odd. It was down to like 1.3, 2, and then now it's back up to like 1.77. It would reach like 1.8, and the interest rates kind of are like just right in the middle there, in the you know, mid to high threes. Just kind of, I think that the banks just did not come all the way back down like where they did in 2012. Remember, it was like 3%.
Right.
So remember, they were hovering around like 3.5%, and everyone's like, well, shouldn't the interest rates be lower? I'm like, how much lower, right? To match 2013, the banks just don't need to go that low. But at the same time, I mean, our country needs to do something, right? Or we're gonna, I think, go into possible hyperinflation, which would not be fun.
Yeah, I'm worried about that too.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, I mean, like our grandparents, when they made money and wanted to save it, they bought CDs and they made like 15% on their money in CDs. Now, you know, it takes a lot more risk to make a smaller amount of money. I saw someone, a guy who sells like multi-unit apartments and stuff like that. He posted one on Facebook for sale. It's like a fourplex in PB or something like that, and the cap was like 4.54%.
Crazy.
It's like a $1-point-something million pad, and I'm thinking, wow, is someone going to get excited about that 4.54%? Because they have to put a lot out there.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of money down.
To really make no actual dollar return.
Yeah. So I look at stuff like that and I go, wow, are we creating a culture where we have to take on that much risk in order to get that little of a return? And what does that cause? Well, historically, you said the I word, you know, inflation.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. You're going to see inflation. I mean, what would be nice is a little deflation. Deflation would be really nice.
I'm like halfway through the book Aftershock right now, and it's scary. Like, to know how much money's being printed to keep our interest rates down, what that actually is doing, right? So it's like back in like the 80s, they called our economy like the bubble economy. We created bubbles now, and that's why all these bubbles are bursting. Like, they get overinflated and then they burst and then they go down, and then we kind of, recover on like false pretenses, right? And like the stock market at 18,000, where did that come from?
Yeah, how could it be near an all-time high? I mean, it doesn't seem like we're at all-time. I mean, with all the layoffs, just from the companies that are here in San Diego that people are paying attention to, like Sony and Qualcomm, that have thousands of people that they're laying off, thousands and thousands. Because at the end of the day, I think what a lot of people fail to realize about those layoffs is that they're actually good for the company's balance sheet.
Yeah, they're extremely good.
They're good. I mean, that's what but it's also a sign that sales aren't there, because the companies are going to go, well, we need to make this much per share in order for our stock price to be here.
Keep our stock prices.
That's how they look at it. So if they're not bringing in the revenue, then they just go to the other side of the thing and go, all right, well, let's get rid of expenses, and then we'll make that much money.
Keep their projections almost the same.
Yeah. So we keep the the analyst projections approximately where they're going to be. So in other words, the stock price will not necessarily go down when layoffs get announced. It might go up. They might just inject confidence, like, oh yeah, these guys are paying attention to what's going on. They saw they were going to miss, and they said, we're going to fix it.
Okay.
So that's how the stock market is not necessarily the right indicator for us to be looking at.
No. It's... I don't know really what indicator to look at, because every time that something kind of starts to come out, right? Oh, the 10 years going down in Brexit. Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, now Brexit is not a major topic. I mean, I haven't heard anything about it, right?
Yeah.
And nothing really changed.
The only people who covered it were me, you, and Max, and
Yeah.
all of the media. We brought Max Folkers on. We talked about it. That's it. No one else talked about it. They're like, all right, Brexit, done.
Yeah. Now people's excuses are, oh, the election. We're going to wait to see what's going to happen with the election. We're going to wait to see what happens after the election. Oh, the interest rates are going to be increasing, the Fed rate increasing in December, right? That's pretty much like, I feel that that's a guaranteed move. They haven't raised it since last December. They're probably going to raise it again in December. What does that do with 30-year fixed rates? What did it do last time? 30-year fixed rates went down after they raised the Fed rate, right? So,
because it's a confidence thing, right? So the mortgage rates are based on mortgage bond sales.
Correct.
And when you can't get any return at the bank, when there's no return to get anywhere, big money, and I'm talking serious cake, like the kind of people who are moving tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars a day, they're looking at, they need to win. They can't afford a loss. So they'll take your mortgage bond at 3%.
All day.
All day, because, hey, I got $100 million to put in there. I'm going to still come out with a nice chunk of money, even though my percentage return isn't that great. So they'll take that all day long. And I think the raising of the rates last time provided a piece of confidence in the marketplace. Was like, okay,
something's going positive.
Yeah, something must be happening.
Yeah, the economy's doing better.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's weird that the dynamic between what people think the lowering or raising of interest rates means versus how it actually plays out in the economy. Because, like you said, if they did raise rates again in December, which a lot of people think they will, I think that would have potentially another positive effect on everything. And it may be psychosomatic, it may be placebo effect, maybe it isn't that good and they're just doing that to bluff, but it could work.
I hope it does. I think it's going to get a lot of people off the fence. There's so many people on the fence right now, and they're like, oh my gosh, interest rates are so low. I'm like,
to buy homes?
Great. Sell your house and go buy another one. Or, get some action out there. I think that some of the valuation are increasing right now, and people are needing the lower interest rates just because there's really nothing on the market. I mean, we have so many pre-approved buyers right now that just, are working. I have one lady that she actually purchased a home. So we wrote like 5 offers, and this one, they were going back and forth back in February. Okay? February, almost 8 months ago. She bought another house. Her house has now increased $150,000. She is selling that house, and she made an offer on the home that she did back in February because the seller was like, no, my house is worth more. Now she's like willing to actually pay more because she made $150,000 in 8 months on this other house.
Oh my
This
goodness.
is crazy.
That is crazy. I mean, that stuff scares me.
You're right.
When I see stuff like that, it scares me.
It's almost what we were doing back in like 2006,
I
2005,
know.
2006. Like, hey, we were just increasing and, you know, people were just taking out, or, oh my gosh, my house went up $50,000. I'm going to sell and I'm going to go buy something else.
Well,
And I think that the interest rates are actually allowing people to do that. What would happen if we raised our interest rates 0.5% or 0.75%? We'd probably see like a serious slowdown
yeah.
for
Well,
a little bit.
that happened a couple years ago. Remember that 1 week?
2013?
Yeah.
August.
Yeah, that it just went up a point in a week. And that really caused a lot of the action. It was so abrupt. It caused a lot of the action to stop, but it caused a lot of people to really pull the trigger. They really had no choice. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what would cause it to, what would cause this to change right now. But when I hear about, that much money being made in that short a period of time, everyone always says, well, yeah, but people are fully qualified now to buy homes, whereas back then they weren't. I'm not saying 2008 is going to happen again.
No,
that can never happen.
I don't think so.
But I still think people are able to qualify for too much house too easily. That I will say.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the same thing as before. Not as drastic, but it's the same idea of buying too much house. It's a fragile situation.
So 1,800 exceptions last year at a specific mortgage bank was requested. 1,800 exceptions for debt to income ratio.
Okay.
1,500 of them were approved to go above QM DTI, 47 to 49%. 1,500. So it's happening.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And at these low rates. So think about something that's actually like 0.5% higher on $1 million, right? That 49% is now in the 50s. They're not going to get the exceptions. Or are banks going to make the exceptions for the 50%?
That's the big question.
Are they going to increase it? Because QM 2014, right, we're not supposed to go about 43.
But
Now it's 45.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now it's 47. Now what? 75% or more were just granted up to 49. See, so it's kind of like it's trending that way. So it's fun to like look at the actual bank side.
Well, yeah, and
See those things.
Of course, because it's just always that's how we do. That's how Wall Street is. That's how big banks think. I mean, it's always stretching it just a little bit further. Oh well, we're safe here, and they just kind of taking that further step towards the cliff. Well, it's still safe here.
Yeah,
still safe here. Still safe.
But
here.
is it really safe? So here's like and I'm just throwing this out there, right? Before, and we've talked about this back in for a very long time, it was like, if you missed a mortgage payment, you did not tell everybody you missed a mortgage payment,
right.
Okay? Until like 2008, 2009. Then it was like, I've missed 17 years of mortgage payments. And everyone's like, wow, giving you high fives and patting your back. So it was like a different era. Somebody is at a 50% debt to income ratio, already experienced missing mortgage payments, kind of letting their house go. I don't think that the whole bubble is going to burst and we're going to go down like 40% just because there's a lot of money and there's a lot of people qualifying for homes. But what happens with that buyer at a 50% DTI and their value goes down maybe like $50,000 or $100,000? They've already experienced that there's no negative side effect to missing a mortgage payment or to not making a mortgage payment. So are we quicker to act on that?
I think they'll default very readily.
Easy.
I think they'll default easily and say, oh, I need a loan modification. I need this, I need that. And I think the servicers are more prepared to handle those things, more prepared and ready to do short sales.
Yeah.
There are rules in place now that they can't run the foreclosure alongside the modification, which is nice. Mm-hmm. So I think it will be a little bit cleaner, and just from a quantity perspective, there's less of that's going to happen. So I don't know, man. We'll see. Crazy times.
Yes, it is.
Crazy times, but nothing to say that rates should go up anytime soon. In fact, based on what we expect to happen and what has happened in the past, when that happens, rates could go down a little.
Yeah.
but we certainly don't expect them to go up.
I would say if you're in the market of refinancing or somewhat on the fence, like, and don't try to time the market perfectly, because you will never time the market perfectly. If it makes sense, you're saving money, you're not paying a bunch of closing costs, do it. Like, there should be nothing holding you back actually from making those corrections. Especially, you want to refinance. If you are going to refinance, you want to do it as close as you can to the last refinance.
Right.
So that you're not just re-amortizing your loan just to save money, where a lot of people are making that mistake, right?
Yeah.
Actually look at the amount of interest that you're saving and the amount of closing costs, not what you're, oh, I'm going to save $100 out of my pocket because I'm re-amortizing.
Right, right. Yeah,
Right?
no, and a lot of people do that, you know,
Yeah.
every year.
They're like 7 years in and, oh my gosh, I'm going to save $200. Well, it's because you've already paid 7 years.
Yeah.
Right?
So you still have 29 years and 2 months left on this thing, you know. We don't want to see that. We want to see people pay their homes off, so be smart about it. Great advice, Sean. Appreciate your time today, man. Thanks a lot for coming.
Cool.
Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
Short sales have started showing up again, but don't worry, our next guests are going to explain exactly what's going on. Here for the first time, please welcome short sales specialist Stephen Boykin and principal designer of Simply Stunning Spaces, Darcy Kempton.
All right, welcome to the show. Hello, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you. Thanks for having us both. So, Steve, I want to start with you because short sales is something that has started to creep itself back into the San Diego marketplace. Not because values are down so much, values are up, but there are still places, pockets, where people bought and haven't quite recovered from the peak of the marketplace. So we're starting to see short sales come back, and you've got history as an asset manager, experience as an asset manager. We'll talk about that in a second, but you're also the short sale guy for Chris Heller's team, right?
Yes, I am. Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I want to thank Ryan and Darren, Pure Mortgage, for inviting me and being on the show.
Sure.
But yes, I was a short sale analyst and an asset manager for one of the major bank servicing companies. And then after they got bought out, all that, when the market crashed, you know, stayed in real estate, and just recently started working with Chris Heller and his team, which has been in business for 20 plus years, was #1 in San Diego. They had some short sales, and they were, you know, something wasn't going on, and I said, hey, can I take over these short sales? And sure enough, you know, got a lot of short sales approved within weeks, one of them specifically in like 4 days. So now, like you said, you kind of start seeing it. It's not like it was back in the day when the crash happened, but it's starting to pop up more and more. I think there's probably about 140 some short sales now active on the market. The NODs, the notice of defaults, are popping up even more and more. It's, yeah.
Okay, so only 140 on the market, so it makes up a very small percentage of the actual inventory.
Right.
But we're seeing it happen more and more. What's different about this time around? Last time it seemed like the banks weren't ready for the short sales. It was a huge cluster, and I think a lot of people may have had a bad experience. What can we expect this time around, assuming that it's not going to be to the degree it was last time, but what should we, based on your current experience?
Well, for one thing, the banks and the servicing companies and the investors who own the loans, you know, when the market crashed last time, they had no clue, and they were just, a lot of them were just you know, winging it pretty much. Now they have the experience. They're streamlined the process a lot more. Their guidelines are pretty strict. Not strict, but they have the guidelines that are pretty standard for short sales. They're just more prepared. And then, like someone like myself, who's been on both ends, working with the bank and working with clients, you know, it's the process is a lot easier than it was before.
It's easier.
Yeah.
So it's more streamlined.
It can be, as long as the agent, person like myself, who knows what the bank wants, who knows what they do. I mean, they, like I said, with the guidelines, they have a number, They, you know, strict guidelines on what they want, how much they're going to sell it for based on the BPO, you know, broker's price opinion. But then there's other things that you can do. It's just how you relate with the bank.
So if someone out there is considering, so let's say they're upside down, or maybe they're right at flat, you know, because if you add in the cost of sale, now you're upside down, right? So let's say I bought my house for $600, it's worth $600 today. I need to sell for a lot of reasons. I need a different place to live. I need to be in a different area. I need to be in a different school district, whatever it is. I need to sell my house. I don't want to rent it. Don't want to be a landlord. What should I do? Like, what's the first step?
Well, the first thing is, you know, I think with the banks now, again, because they have been doing it, you know, they know exactly what they want now. First thing, if it's an FHA loan, you know, they'll try to do some kind of loan modification or forbearance. But if it's something that, like, hey, I really want to do a short sale, there's options are, unfortunately, well, if you're like moving within 50 miles, they can pretty much do a short sale. Obviously, what happens is you have to kind of go negative, like miss a payment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once you miss a payment or two, then you show your financials and you send it to them, and you're like, hey, I just can't afford this home. You know, that's when you would call myself. You know, we'll create a hardship letter, reasons, make sure the reasons are valid. You know, then we contact the bank. It's better to do that than as opposed to just calling the bank. I want to do a short sale. They're not going to really listen to you. Now, if they're like, well, let's see your credit report, let's see all this stuff. It's better to go ahead and, you know, get everything together, get a hardship letter together, and then send it on.
Okay, so basically, you know, first steps probably for someone if they're considering it, maybe give you a call first, and then just kind of say, hey, here's my situation.
Exactly.
What should I do next? Because it sounds like it'll be pretty dynamic depending upon what the person wants to do next.
Right, and I mean, you know, like I was saying, usually you have to, you know, miss a payment or two before they'll even consider a short sale. But there are certain circumstances, like if there's some medical issues. Again, if you're moving, if your job's transferring you, you know, like 50 miles away, there are some circumstances where that would work out. It just depends. But
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just need to be able to explain. It needs to make sense. At the end of the day, what's the bank looking for? They're looking for the greatest net, right? I mean.
Well, okay, so that's the part of the guidelines. There's a number, there's a percentage. If someone's doing a short sale, they've been, you know, past due on their mortgage, they submit the package. The banks usually have, and the investors usually have a percentage that they want. That percentage, you know, is pretty standard. But the circumstances could be different. Like even though, you know, once you get a notice of default, usually it's 120 days for the foreclosure process, but sometimes that takes longer, whatever the circumstances. The bank will look at this. It is the net. And they have a system, most of them have these systems where they'll compare doing a foreclosure versus a short sale. And if they go through the whole process of the foreclosure, it's going to cost the bank a lot more money as opposed to doing the short sale. So that way, the short sale is better for the bank, which most of the time is.
Right. So I think a lot of people don't realize that. They feel bad about doing the short sale, but to the alternative, it's actually better for the bank. It's better for the neighborhood. It's better for everybody.
Everyone, absolutely, because once it goes into foreclosure, then the values are going to drop even more. Mm-hmm. And again, like I said, there's a percentage of what the bank wants based on the market value.
Okay. We'll just say, call Stephen if you have questions about this, because I think it's going to be too dynamic to try to generalize, oh, this is the right step, this is the right step. There's too many variables in the equation, so we'll just say call Stephen. But I'll tell you, this is the, you know, the bright side of the coin, or the silver lining, if you will, is that if there are short sales happening, that usually means that there might be deals for buyers. Like there's a lot of buyers that are on the fence, or maybe they're even off the fence in the wrong direction. They're so sick of it. So buying a short sale, let's talk about that, because this is where Darcy can come in. Now, when you're buying a short sale, you might be getting a good deal, but what else might be kind of involved with that, Stephen?
Well, most of the short sales or foreclosed homes, you know, the person's in default, they're really frustrated, the bank's not helping them, you know, whatever the situation is. So most of the time, most short sales aren't in the best condition. So one, you'll get it at a good value because you're going to have to get it as is. The bank's not going to do any kind of repairs. They're not going to do anything.
No request for repairs.
Yeah, no request for repairs. They're not going to do that. So when you get it, when you're buying that home, you're getting it value, but then you're going to have to put some work into the home. But you're getting a good discount, but again, you just have to do some work to it, which is...
Darcy, can you make this homes pretty again?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do. So, yeah, homeowners shouldn't be intimidated or, you know, scared to take on a fixer-upper like that. It really can be a simple process, you know, if you seek a little help from us. You know, we've made it easy for homeowners, so it's not scary to hire a designer anymore. We have a design in a box, which is made exactly for this, for kind of like the DIY homeowner. So we kind of give them their 3D computer rendering and their whole design plan, like step by step, paint by numbers, can't mess it up. So you can feel pretty confident going into buying a short sale and, you know, knowing that you kind of can see the potential of the home and then
cool.
the steps on how to make it happen.
How long does it take to get one of those renderings created?
We're at about 3 weeks right now. We try to stick to our 2-week timeline, but we're in the middle of opening a showroom, so we're pushed back.
And short sales are taking about how long, Stephen?
Yeah.
Well, if it's me, the short sale is going to take probably a couple weeks. If it's someone else, it'll probably take 3 to 6 months.
To get approved, but to close,
yeah.
right? It's still going to take a while, right?
Well,
like
once you get
days.
an approval from a bank for a short sale, then it's a normal process. You know,
like 60. Well, I guess the average days on market now is like 45 or something.
Right.
So let's call it, you know, if you work with Stephen, maybe a couple months. So plenty of time.
Plenty of time. You could, you know, have your design, order your materials, line up your crew, get your competitive bids, and, you know, kind of line everything up so when you close you can move in and get to work. And a project like that, you know, depending, but, you know, depends on the scope of work, but,
Of course,
you know,
sure.
4 to 8 weeks.
But it's a solution. I mean, that's what we're doing here. We're talking about solutions, right? Whether you're upside down in your home and you're like, oh, do they still do short sales? Yeah, they do. You need to talk with an expert like Stephen, but yeah, they still do them. And then if I'm on the other side, it's always like to talk about both sides of the coin. I mean, there's buyers out there who are hearing these short sales, and if they're smart, I mean, what I hear is opportunity. When I hear there's homes that are being short sold. Yeah. Now, Stephen, I will say though, for buyers out there who might be contacting you thinking they can get the inside scoop, you have to go through a process, right, with the short sale listings, where the buyer, you know, the banks make you go through a certain way. Isn't there something like that you have to do?
So
rounds
someone
of
calls
offers?
me, they're looking and they say, I specifically want a short sale. There's something that we do. Obviously, me working with the other agent saying, hey, I'm an experienced short sale analyst, let me help with the process. That's number one. Most of the stuff that are short sales will be on the MLS. But what we do also is we have our team at the Chris Heller Group that we're called inside agents. And we look at all the notice of defaults. We look at, you know, we'll make these calls to find these homes to make it easier. But you know, it is a process. I mean, it's not like, hey, let's just pick up a short sale, whatever's out there. I mean, you still have to go through the steps. And if I'm not the one who's in control of it, I could at least help streamline it a little bit, make it a little bit easier for the client, for the buyers. For the buyers, for sure.
So use your expertise on the other side of it, basically.
Yeah, it's, you know, and it's a good thing because every agent that I pretty much have worked with when I'm representing a buyer and the seller agent was representing the short sale, they've been very, you know, good, I guess. What's the right word? They've been very cordial and professional. And,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. So you can still contact Steve if you're a buyer, and then obviously you're going to need Darcy to help fix up the home a little bit, you know, spruce it up, make it yours. Guys, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Appreciate your time.
Thank
you.
you.
Fantastic. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
Semi-suburbs? You're definitely going to want to listen into our next guest just to understand exactly what we're talking about. Please welcome back the champ, Elizabeth Story.
There she is. Champ is here in her purple. Woo! That's exactly what we were hoping for today. So Champ, tell me, now this, you know, a lot of people are concerned that the real estate market in San Diego has been going too high, too quickly, that it's this this bubble that's waiting to burst. You're more optimistic about it than that. You think that this is a train that you better get on or get off the tracks.
Yes.
Why are you so optimistic about San Diego?
Because look at San Diego as a whole, and I work several parts around the county, which has been allowing me to keep up with several parts of the county. And as a whole, there's just nothing but good things going on. There's all this development, there's all this change, and all of it is good. You know, we talked about the Seaport Village expansion. It's 40 acres of the Embarcadero district downtown that's being proposed for the next 2 years. We got the Whole Foods and Ritz-Carlton approved. There's the whole Stadium Convention Center measure on the ballot. We've got the high-speed train that's being approved. We've got new construction in Carlsbad. We've got new construction in Carmel Valley. We've got new construction in Del Mar. I mean, we've got new construction in a lot of different places. Mission Valley has had a huge build out. And so I see nothing but improvements in infrastructure and developing, and a lot of more infill development too. So revitalizing neighborhoods. We've got Barrio Logan that's being constantly revitalized. There's all these new shops and restaurants, and it's near the transportation. And these are all good things to help an interconnected community and economy.
Yeah, it's funny because there are still areas like Barrio Logan where you would think, if you haven't been there in a couple years, what you think it is not what it is today.
Oh, it's changed so much.
Rapidly changing, which is sort of, that's a sign to me that, okay, there are no more slums, if you will. There's no places where you can look and go, oh, there's super cheap property there, but it's a little sketchy. Like, there's very little of that exists still. And in certain places like the North Parks, the South Parks, the Metro area, where there used to be some of that, there's $1 million houses there now.
Right.
That's what's happening. So I get it from that standpoint, from looking at it from, okay, well, we have all these things going on, all this stuff is going to happen, but what about the next generation of people? Because they're the ones who scare me. Like, you know, the baby boomers have money, they saved, they're upgrading, or they're empty nesting and then they're downsizing and then traveling, whatever. They're cool. But what about millennials and people who have student loan debt and, you know, don't have great jobs? What are they looking for, and how is the San Diego market going to give them what it is that they need in order to be excited about real estate?
Well, and you know, we always thought there's been this misconception that, you know, the millennials want to live downtown, but really what it is they want to live somewhere walkable. But they're into communities too. So what we're really finding is, and it's helping spur this revitalization, is these mini suburbs. So areas like, and I like to use North Park as an example. You know, if you look at North Park 10 years ago compared to North Park now, it has grown, it's been revitalized, it's got a lot of more shops and restaurants, and property values have gone up. And I continue to see that going on. Again, Barrio Logan, you're starting to see now it's trendy, it's hip, there's art galleries opening, there's breweries opening, there's restaurants opening, and you're gonna see a lot of millennials flocking to areas like that as well, because it's so close to downtown San Diego. And if the stadium proposal does go through, it's just going to continue pushing all of that real estate east. And historically, that's kind of been a little bit of the problem that we've had in San Diego, is that, you know, everybody wants to live along the water. But as you continue to start making it more interconnected and more developed going further east, I just plan to see a lot more revitalization of all those easterly neighborhoods and continue to see property values go up.
So maybe what the millennials should do right now, if they were really smart, is maybe go try to find one of those properties over there to buy today.
Yes.
That would be a really good idea.
100%. And they can call me too, because, you know.
You talk millennial.
I sell real estate.
She's definitely hip enough to be your realtor, that's for sure. So you said mini suburbs, you said?
Yeah, I think it's mini suburbs.
Semi-suburbs? It's okay if we're playful. They will like it. So the semi-suburb reference, or the mini suburb reference.
Whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to call it. Not the real suburbs. Because the real suburbs are far away.
Yeah, those are far.
You have to drive a long ways.
Scary.
And there's cul-de-sacs, and there's families and neighbors that look at you like this all the time. And in the semi-suburbs, you don't have as much of that.
Not nearly as much.
Is this not? This isn't just millennials that want that, though. This seems to be what everybody wants.
Well, even like retirees. I see a lot of people who everybody wants walkable. They want hip, they want happening, they want to be able to go to a coffee shop or a restaurant or just enjoy the beautiful weather that we always have, but make it walkable so that they don't have to leave as much. And so that's another thing we're noticing is we're becoming less dependent on having so many vehicles, which is definitely good because, you know, as we continue to develop, congestion and traffic will become an issue. But the economy sharing of like Uber and ride sharing applications has also made it a much more connected community because you can get up and down the coastline so much less expensive and easier and safer that people aren't feeling like they can't just leave their walkable neighborhood. So yes, they can find a cool walkable neighborhood, but they can also get out of it, which opens up so many possibilities.
True, Uber's so cheap.
It's so cheap.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go from Del Mar to like North Park. Like I said the other day, I was hanging out there for the first time ever, and it was like $20.
Yeah.
$20.63 or something like that. I could not believe it. So that is so much less than a cab was. And I feel like an old man when I'm telling people, when I used to have to take cabs.
Yeah.
But they're terrible. Here's the thing that I think is, you know, you talked last time you were on the show, and it's getting a lot of activity right now on social media about the hottest property for 2017. Hottest property type, hottest properties, and what those are going to look like. And those sort of multifamily potential Airbnb style units are going to be the hottest properties. And I think you're absolutely right about that. I think also what we're going to see happen, and maybe it's not 17, maybe it's 18, but it's coming as the traffic gets worse, which is just going to continue to happen. All of these type of walkable neighborhoods you're talking about, these semi-suburbs, are going to have even greater increases in demand.
Correct.
Because of the fact that people are not going to want to get back in the car. If they're going to drive to and from work, that's going to be it.
Right.
And they don't want to drive anymore. And a lot of people are not going to want to even do that. I don't want to do that. So I think most people don't want to, but they'll have to in some cases, but they're going to want to be able to come home, park the car, and be done driving.
Yeah.
And so that's also a potential, maybe not a type, but a sort of a region that I think we can expect to continue to grow in value as well because of the convenience factor, and people don't have time to drive any more than they already are.
Right. Well, it's one of the reasons why downtown has and continues to be so desirable for certain types of people, not just because of the views, but because there's so much transportation. You know, there's the trolley station, there's the coaster, you're close to the airport. They don't have to drive after they're done driving. They can walk or they can get on public transportation. So not just, you know, neighborhoods that are walkable, but also neighborhoods, again, that are close to infrastructure and transportation. That plays a huge role in where people go and live and work because of the ease of getting where they need to go.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that a lot of people are trying to figure that out right now. They're trying to buy homes closer to their jobs and stuff like that. They're trying to, you know, live in proximity so that the travel time isn't so bad.
Yes.
Anymore. And what'll be real interesting to see is because a lot of those areas we're talking about, metro especially, the semi-suburbs, there isn't a ton of industry down there. Like you don't have big companies and skyscrapers there with like 3,000 jobs. Don't have any of that yet. But wait until you do. Like East Village, for example, you know, you have Simper down there now.
Yeah.
That's a slow game changer as people are realizing that they're driving from San Marcos to downtown every day, and they go, you know, if I lived right there, I could get rid of my car.
Yes.
Literally.
And the expense of it.
Yeah.
The expense of gas, because that's another thing. Like people used to buy in like Temecula or North County to save money because the housing was cheaper, but then they're spending so much money on gas and car and time that it becomes a wash.
Thank you for bringing that up, please. Thank you, please and thank you for bringing that up because I keep having people say, oh yeah, I'm going to look in Temecula, I'm going to look in Marietta because I can't afford here. Like, what?
Why?
No. How much is your time worth, for God's sake? And not to mention, it's not that much cheaper.
It's not.
Just period.
It's not that much cheaper. It really isn't. And again, like you have to sit down and do the math. Like, okay, how many gallons of gas am I going to use? How much is it going to cost me per month? How much is my maintenance going to cost? And when you add that all up, I mean, it could be $500, $600, $700 a month. And when you apply that towards the purchase price of a house, you would be shocked that it might actually be more expensive to buy in that far off place where you're spending 2-3 hours a day in traffic than if you just bought somewhere you wanted to live
It's just
anyway.
no way to live, man.
It's no way to live.
Not in a car like that.
That's why I sold my house in Carlsbad.
Nothing against Carlsbad.
I love Carlsbad. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
But my
But
whole
it's
life
way up
wasn't there,
It's
you
way
know,
up there.
and so I needed to live somewhere that was more conducive to my whole life.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's way up there. I mean, yeah, Carlsbad's far.
It is far.
It's far. I live in Del Mar, and Carlsbad's far.
I'm sorry, my Carlsbad people.
Nothing wrong with Carlsbad. Love Carlsbad. Love Mr. Carlsbad. But it's far. If your world is downtown, if your world's Mission Valley, I mean, like I said, even where I am in Del Mar, it takes me a while to get to Carlsbad.
Yeah.
So, like, it's far. And but there's industry in Carlsbad, though.
There is. Oh, in the airport, and that's something.
In the airport.
I want to talk a little bit about that too, because so you've got the whole Carlsbad airport plan that's in the works, and then the Tijuana airport just expanded.
Right.
So now you have 2 more ways to get in and out of San Diego. So again, the face of San Diego, if you start talking about it as a whole, it's all development, it's all new, it's all progress.
Yeah, that's very, very true, because it's not just SAN, San Diego International, and John Wayne. Like, those were your 2 options, like, for a long time. But there's a lot more flights coming out of Palomar, and they're going to start bringing in even more flights out of Palomar. Plus, that Tijuana airport, by the way, I've heard, especially for international flights, that is the spot.
That's what I heard.
To fly out of.
That's
like,
what I heard.
Insanely, ridiculously inexpensive.
And you can just walk right across now.
Yeah, you walk into it.
And I mean, it's so much easier, and you should save a ton of money. So, I mean, these, again, I mean, how could we not, and I've talked about this 100 times, I'll say it one more time. In these past years, I've watched what people are buying and how they're buying it. They're putting down huge down payments, they're well qualified, and they're invested. That doesn't create a bubble, that creates a community.
Yeah, very well said, Elizabeth Story. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. You are amazing. The champ, ladies and gentlemen, Elizabeth Story. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else. Commercial free.
Our next guest is our go-to guy in Golden Hill and the owner of Lepe Tendwell Properties. Please welcome back to the show, Voltaire Lepe.
There he is. Voltaire's in the house.
Hi there.
What's up, man?
Nothing much.
So today, this is interesting, because today we're talking about tips for landlords, right? So we talk about real estate all the time, but this is tips for landlords. You do property management as well at Lepe Tendwell.
Yes.
And you've got a report that you're going to give out for free. 10 tips?
10 tips to manage your property and increase the value.
And increase the value.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that sticks out to me, because I think most people assume, you know, if I'm going to turn a house into a rental, that it's going to get dilapidated, it's going to be devalued by the tenants. But you've got tips to help prevent that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the last 14 years I've seen a lot of properties. I've met a lot of property owners, and one thing that I see a lot of is property owners not being able to maintain or appreciate, you know, their property as far as the value, just because they're not managing the property correctly. And, you know, it takes a lot of years, a lot of experience in trying to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, definitely does. So we'll give as many tips as we can today in the short time that we have, and then if anyone wants the free report, we'll have the information on the screen so that they can get that.
Yeah, for sure.
So first one, obviously tenants. The tenant, you know, I guess how you select them. What about the tenants do people need to know?
Yeah, so the biggest part, the biggest part about property management is the tenant selection. Okay, if you could get this down pat, if you could get it right the first time, then your life's going to be a lot easier. Your property is going to maintain and increase in value in the future. So, you know, a couple things. Like, for example, you probably shouldn't rent to people that you know. Okay, you probably shouldn't rent to...
Should not rent to people you know.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't rent to, like, family or friends, because if you think of it, for example, if you rent it out to, you know, your cousin, and your cousin misses a payment or is late all the time, I mean, are you really going to go to your cousin and serve them a 3-day notice, right? Or a buddy of yours? Are you going to risk that relationship? Because at the end of the day, most property owners, they don't own the property free and clear, right? And that's a misconception that a lot of tenants have. Oh man, he's rich, he owns the property, and, you know, he's making all kinds of money off me, and I'm only late a few days. But, you know, as property owners, we have bills to pay too, right? So at the end of the day, are you going to risk you being late on your mortgage just because somebody that you know, you don't want to give them that notice? The other thing too is you should probably have some criteria that you base your tenant selection on. You know, a certain FICO score, a certain income level, maybe 3 times gross rent, and no eviction history. So you should probably have a criteria. That way, when you get applications, it's easier just to shift and sort through the applications and just push them out the way, and then just get to the people that you want to, place in your property. I
think what happens to some people is that, not in this market. In this market, if you put an ad out there, you're getting a lot of people.
Right.
But in a lot of markets, some they'll stick an ad out. Here's, I want to rent my place. And it's a week and nobody calls. And then all of a sudden they get a call and they're like, oh gosh, I hope this is the guy, right? Because I have to make that payment. I want him to make it for me.
Right.
And so they start to look through with, those, we call it beer goggles. That's what a guy calls it. You look at it, you start seeing this application and you go, oh, that's okay, I believe him.
Right.
Oh, he's got a bad credit score. That's okay, I believe him. That's not his.
Right.
And you just want to get the lease signed.
Exactly.
So you got to be careful of that.
Yeah, and the other issue with the tenant selection process is if you choose the wrong tenant, and they know who you are, they know you're the owner, you start to hear sob stories. Oh, this happened, my car broke down, or whatever sob story it is for that month, and then you start, feeling bad for them, and it's really hard to make a business decision and the best decision for yourself and your family, and say, hey, look, sorry about your bad luck or whatever, but here's a notice. You have 3 days to pay rent or to get out.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, you got to be comfortable doing that with whoever you select.
Exactly.
No question. What about the rent? What advice do you have for people in that regard?
One thing that you need to track and always have a pulse on is the rental market. Okay, you always want to know what the area is renting for. The Union Tribune came out with an article a couple weeks ago that said that the average rent per unit increased about $150 a month.
Over the year?
Over the year.
Wow.
Right? So from last year to this year, $150 increase. Now, most landlords, most property owners don't know that. And the ones that do, they're probably not going to raise the rent on the tenants, right? But at the end of the day, you're doing a disservice as far as like the value of the property and the future of the property. Because when you go to refinance in the future, guess what the value is going to, come back at. If the rent isn't at market value, it's probably going to come a little bit less. Or if someone comes to purchase your property, and let's say you have multi-units, like a little apartment building or something, and they're not up to rent a market rents, then the next buyer is going to pay you less for that property. So you're really doing yourself a disservice, your future self a disservice. At the same time, some landlords, they strike deals with tenants. They say, hey, look I'm cutting you a deal on the rent, so just don't call me and bother me with anything, right? I mean, I see it all the time.
Yeah, so if you have a garbage disposal issue, don't call me. We're giving you this lower rent. But there's some other risks to that too, right?
Right, exactly. Because if you have side deals with the tenants where, I've ran into landlords where they say, oh, you know what, I have great tenants, they never call me for anything, and I ask them about the rent, and they say, well, I haven't increased it in 10 years just because, I have a really good thing, I don't have to worry about it, and they manage the place themselves. What we come to find out is that the property has a lot of maintenance issues, right? It's not in the best shape. And the other thing about side deals is the tenant can never waive their right to a habitable unit, to a safe unit, to a clean unit. So if there's mold issues and there's different maintenance issues, I mean, really it's the manager who happens to be the landlord, it's their responsibility to take care of it. No matter what side deals you have, the tenant can never waive, those type of rights that they have. So for example, if you get a call from a tenant and they say, hey, look, we have mold growing, it's the landlord's responsibility to take care of it right away, and then later they could determine whether it was a tenant's fault, and then they could send them the bill for that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're the landlord, don't say, oh, that's your fault.
Right.
Because they are liable for that.
Exactly.
Potential damage.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll leave you with the rent is make those increases, as you see fit. Check the market rent at least once a year.
Walter, one of the tips, because I've got a sneak peek at this. Of course, everyone, you can get your free copy of this, top 10 tips, just by following the information on the screen. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about was the month-to-month leases versus term leases. You have a tip in there about that. Can you give us a sneak peek on that one?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of property owners, a lot of managers, they prefer long-term leases, 12-month or 2-year lease. And whenever I meet with property owners, they say, hey, look, I prefer this 1-year or 2-year type of agreement with the tenants because I'm guaranteed the rent. Now, from my experience and the way that I see things, I prefer, as a property manager, I prefer getting everybody on a month-to-month rent. And the reason is because on a long-term lease, on any type of lease, the tenant has more rights than you, the property owner. Right? So, for example, if you rent it for 1 year to a tenant and then right off the bat they're late on the rent all the time, you start seeing red flags because you drive by and they have all kinds of stuff in the front lawn and the property isn't looking as good, and you know, they start calling for different things and just kind of they're a nuisance to you, right?
A PETA?
A PETA.
Yeah. Pain in the ass.
Yeah. So let's say they're that. If you're on a lease with them, you can't get them out. The only way you could get them out is if they stop paying you rent. But other than that, you just have to live with it for the rest of the year, the rest of the 2 year remaining, whatever's remaining on the lease, as opposed to a month to month. If you start seeing red flags right away, you can just give them a 30-day notice and go find yourself another tenant.
Wow, well, that's already a bunch of great stuff. That's only a few of the top 10 tips. So make sure you reach out with the information on the screen to get your free copy of the top 10 tips for landlords to help keep their property value increased, which is a difficult thing to do for most people. Walter, thank you so much for your time and for all the stuff that you do for the show.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.
San Diego, and happy Halloween. I am here at the Del Mar Scaregrounds, terrified already. I haven't even done anything yet, but we're going to talk to some people about some of their scariest Halloween moments. But first, I'm going to go ahead and check out the attractions for myself. I'm really not good at all this Halloween stuff, so this should be interesting.
We have 150 actors that are here to scare everybody on these different parts of the event. Ooh, can you hear that now?
Wow. What would you say was the funniest experience that you had?
Well, I was a zombie once, and there's this hallway with a bunch of picture frames. But I was behind one picture frame in particular that had a drop-down slam door.
I scared a group one time where they were coming in the room. They didn't think I was real. They thought I was a mannequin.
The thing is, I'm in a maze and there's curtains, so the first thing they do is swing.
The door had slammed down, made a really loud noise, and I popped out. And the dude jumped back and straight up elbowed a hole into the wall.
Slammed on the wall and came at them, and the whole group just like dominoes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just a big pile of people that fell onto the floor.
Clowns. Yeah. Well, I'm not scared of clowns. The people that I'm with are scared of clowns. So it's funny to see them cry.
This larger man, he's kind of short and I didn't really see him.
Probably like a week ago, I was driving down some road towards Temecula. And there's a clown standing in the middle of it.
I turned around and I just looked down and I was just he's like, nah.
He just stood there, just kind of drove around him and he just looked at us.
Did you scream?
A little bit.
To be honest, when my son jumps out from around the corner and I'm not expecting him and he's all, boo!
When they do the chainsaw, oh my God, that terrifies me. The noise itself, just no, don't do that.
I like to scare.
You like to be the scary guy.
I've gotten hit, I've gotten punched, but most of the time they're afraid that they think that I touched them after they hit me.
I actually just got punched like a week ago because I popped out of a curtain and the dude got scared and it was totally an accident.
I wish everyone a happy Halloween. Stay safe, don't do anything dumb, just be careful, have fun, and yep, happy Halloween, guys.